Well, it looks like I've got some splaining to do, as my father used to say. He used to always say that to me, Cart, you've got some splaining to do. Crooks II asked a really good question in the video Without God in comments. And the question was related to the fact that as an atheist, Crooks II found it curious that I have a business called ShintoReligion.com. That's the name of the business and the domain name. The business is currently offline. I'm just too busy right now to run it, so I've taken it offline temporarily. But the business still does exist, and I've had it for years. ShintoReligion.com. Shinto is the native religion in Japan, a very, very old religion with its roots back in prehistory. No one even really knows exactly how it began. But it's the religion that basically all Japanese are. If you're born Japanese, you're Shinto. There's basically two religions in this country, main religions, Shinto and Buddhism, and Japanese people live their lives operating under the protocols of both religions. So, great question. Why does an atheist run a website about the Shinto religion and sell products related to it? Now, I'm going to attempt to explain that right now. Here's how it happened. When back in 2003, when I started my online business, originally called Neat Stuff from Japan, that's what the business's title was first, I sat down with Yumiko, my wife, and we decided what we were going to sell. Basically, we tried to decide what things were good, what things we could sell, and what things would be off limits. And we chose two things that would be off limits that we would not carry in our store. One was military items, memorabilia from the war, because we had access to those things. Helmets and uniforms and boots and diaries and photographs from the war, with that kind of stuff. We weren't going to sell that. And then number two, we weren't going to sell any religious items. We had access to a lot of that stuff in our visits to flea markets and auction houses. There are a lot of religious old kamidanas and the like, little god houses and the like that would come up. So for a long time, we didn't have any of that stuff in the store. And almost from the start, I started getting, on eBay, email from buyers requesting Shinto items. Very few items requesting Buddhist items, but a lot of email from people who wanted either a kamidana, a little god house to make an altar in their home or at their karate dojo. I got a lot of those requests from karate studios who wanted to set up an altar. And for the most part, I responded initially saying basically we don't carry religious items. I'm sorry, and I just went along that way for a long time, and it basically became overwhelming. I would get so many requests, basically for kamidana. That's what people really wanted. Requests after it came, a weekly thing, several times a week, getting email from people who wanted a kamidana. And the reality was that at that time, that if you wanted to buy a kamidana outside Japan, you had to go through a Japanese website. There really weren't any websites that had an English interface where you could buy and deal with an English speaker and buy your kamidana. You had no read and understand Japanese to buy them. So I gave in and I decided to just begin selling kamidana. And I listed a few kamidana online, made some listings for that, and they took off. They sold like nuts. Then the people were able to have their kamidana, and then they would write to me and say, well, we've got our kamidana, but we really want to have the accessories, the little vase and the saucer for the salt and the water vessels and maybe a little tori. Will you please carry that? Well, we had already crossed the line and started with the kamidana, so I began to augment the store with more Shinto-related items. And until I eventually had a little Shinto section, and you could get a whole kamidana outfit. I even created special kamidana sets, that you could buy and buy the whole thing in one package. And then it got to the point where people were asking, like around New Year's, people would start asking, oh, it's the New Year's, we really, in Japanese tradition, Japanese people will go to the shrine and get an omamori. I don't have any with me, but they would have an omamori. I used to have one on my bag. That could be another video. Why do I have an omamori on my bag for? Why would an atheist carry an omamori? Maybe I'll try to answer that at the end if I can remember. So they said, we want an omamori. We can't get it from you because we can't go to Japan. You have to go to the shrine to get it. Same problem with the online purchases. So I went to a local shrine, the Minowa Shrine in Shimizu, and I talked to the priest and said, we'd like to buy omamori. And we weren't asking for a discount. I was just basically asking for permission to buy in bulk. And we didn't get any discount. I didn't ask for it. And he said, cool. And we've been selling from that shrine for years. We're their international outlet. And so we carry a variety of omamori, ofuda, and ema, from that particular shrine, and as well as 2 other shrines in the area where we established similar relationships. So over time, our store, we went with a policy of no religious stuff, and to having a complete section of the store on our eBay store that was devoted to Shinto items. Now, when we established our online store separate from eBay, we moved all that stuff over as well, and had the same thing for a while there. We had 2 stores. We had the eBay store and the ShintoReligion.com website. And then when we finally closed the eBay store, we just had the ShintoReligion.com website, and we basically put the Shinto stuff front and center. It's always been our best-selling stuff. I mean, it's always been the real mover. It's the bread and butter of the store. And we put all the other stuff in the back. There's an other item section, and it became ShintoReligion.com, truly just a site dedicated to the goods from Shinto-related goods from Japan. It didn't start off that way, meaning to be that way. In fact, I didn't want to go down that direction at all, but it developed. And since then, it's become kind of a service for people. Now, if you read, I've written countless, certainly not countless, but so many documents and FAQs and stuff about the Shinto religion, and the website is full of that stuff. I've written so much about it, but I am an atheist, so I don't write it from the perspective of a believer. I write it more like the perspective of a curious outsider, an observer, of almost like a Wikipedia author, writing about something that's interesting to try and explain it. That's kind of how the things read. So there's no. I'm not trying to get anybody's soul on the website, and I'm not trying to convert anybody or spread the religion even, although incidentally that probably does happen. I'm just trying to basically provide a service for people who are interested. Now, the last point I'm going to make that I think will help to justify that in terms of those that might cry foul that an atheist selling religious items, is the fact that here in Japan, you can buy religious items identical except for Ofuda, and Emma and Ofuda, Emma, and Omamori. Those 3 things you can't typically get at the hardware store, but the rest of the stuff you can buy at a hardware store in Japan. You go down to the local big hardware store, they'll have a section there where you can buy just about everything that I sell online. So in many ways, we are providing a branched off service, and then the hardware store isn't a religious institution, of course. No one expects the clerks back there to be wearing the priestly garbs, and nor do I. So we're basically an extension like that. So that explains how an atheist wound up with a religious online store. Now, as for carrying the Ofuda around, I carry that Ofuda around because it was given to me as a gift and it's custom in Japan to attach an Ofuda to your bag or some sort of thing you carry. It's like a good luck charm. There's a little wish. There's a blessed wish in there, and it's a good luck charm in a way. And you could say again, wow, an atheist carrying around a religious charm. Again, when in Rome, nearly all. War Mustrat left a great comment in the video as well, but that Emily, growing up in Japan, she probably won't grow up with any religion at all. That's true. In Japan, this country is full of people who have no religion at all. I don't know if I could go so far as to call them atheists. I don't think that you could do that, because an atheist has thought about it and has decided that there's no God. Japanese don't even think about it for the most part. I'm generalizing, of course. There are some very spiritual people here, but for the most part, the Japanese, like my wife, she doesn't think about it. It's like a non-issue for her, the idea of religion and spirituality. It's just. And I almost would go so far as to say she doesn't care. And I'd say that's true for all of her family. But she goes through the rites, she goes through the rituals, she goes to the shrine at New Year's and prays just like all the other Japanese do. And for the most part, most of them don't really seem to give a darn either. And that may explain why they have the dichotomy, is that the right word, of having 2 religions, Buddhist and Shinto, in the same way. In Japan, you get you're married by a Shinto priest and buried by a Buddhist priest. I mean, the 2 religions walk hand in hand through this country. Well, there you go. I'm closing up at the 10-minute mark. I'm going to shut down for now. There you go. That's why I have that store, if you're curious to see. And I hope you all have a great day. Have a bitchin' day. All right, take care. Bye-bye.